couldn't review Predator Badlands without actually doing, now that we are sort of on our almost like 10th or 15th, like I think it's almost like 10 Predator movies, without doing a listing, a ranking of the top 5 Predator movies. It's a no-brainer that at number 1, it is the original Predator. I have sung the praises of that movie when I reviewed Predator Badlands, and you can check that out sort of in our archive. It is one of the greatest sci-fi action creature feature type movies ever. It is a movie that, I mean, delivers on so many levels that I am hard-pressed to find any fault in it. There are no such things as a perfect movie, but this movie, of course not to say that there aren't others, but at least sort of within this genre, and at least for this particular show, I have to say that it is easily, like I want to give it a 10 out of 10, but you know, for fairness' sake, like sure, a 9.5 or something like that. That is how good this movie is. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the movie, but I am happy to say that every time I do, the experience is even richer than the first. Starring, of course, Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, Billy Duke. Sorry. My mind's never I always lose track after the third or fourth casting. But yeah. I mean, again, I said this before and I'll say it again. I said this before in my earlier sort of tribute to the movie. On paper, it sounds really shit, right? Like an elite, paramilitary force is hunted in the jungle by an alien hunter. I mean, there are so many ways in which this movie could have gone wrong and would have stunk to high heaven. But thanks to John McTiernan, one of the greatest action directors out there, thanks to the script, thanks to the cast, thanks to so many elements of this movie, all coming together in harmony, that we get a movie that now, almost after 40 years, is better than what Hollywood is producing nowadays. So I could go on and on about the movie itself, but you just can't beat Predator. So that's firmly at number 1. Number two, of course, is Prey. Thanks to Dan Trachtenberg for bringing a new life, a sort of vigor, a spirit into the franchise again. We had been suffering as fans of the franchise, of the character of Predators. We had been suffering for a long time. I mean, there was this slew of movies going all the way back to what was that, the early 2000s with AVP, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. There was that. There was AVP Requiem, which is, I mean, a little better than Predator. Then you had Predators. Then you had that Adrian Brody movie. Maybe that one's Predators. Then there was, of course, the one by Shane Black. So you had a bunch of movies which, very frankly, were not going anywhere and did a disservice to the franchise. It was a net negative, because they would release a movie, it would be terrible. The studio would be like, nah, man, we're not doing this anymore. We're done with this. And then somebody would come in and be like, no, let's dust this off and maybe let's try our hand at this again. Maybe this time around we'll do well. Same thing. And it kept on happening, movie after movie after movie, until, like a divine wind, Trachtenberg came in and wrote a story which was something that I think had been sort of like, cogitating in the minds of fans for a while. Because again, we've seen this in the comics, where the predators have been hunting throughout our history. So in this, he takes, of course, the predator back to, sort of, 17th century America, Native Americans. And it stars Amber Mid-Thunder in the lead. And she goes toe-to-toe with a predator. And what a great movie. What a fine movie it turned out to be. So, I think at number 2, it is deserving. At number 3, and this is perhaps going to be my hot, controversial take. I know that sort of it didn't sit well with a lot of people. I do not know why. But Predator 2 with Danny Glover. The Predator hunting in 1997 LA, in which there's sort of a heat wave and a drug war. I don't know why people disparage this movie so much. I love it. I mean, forget the point that we, in comparison to all the other Predators, this movie is still so much better. But even on its own, maybe people didn't buy the fact that sort of like, it took like an Arnold Schwarzenegger and a whole team of like, muscle-bound sort of like, special forces to like take down a single predator. In this you have, I'm not going to say he was out of shape in the movie, but Danny Glover, aka Murtaugh, it's maybe a bit of a hard sell. I wonder what they were thinking with the casting, but I still don't think he was bad in the role. I thought he was pretty good. The entire movie was really decent. I don't know why this movie gets shit. I mean, the Predator is the Predator in the movie. There's like that great, what's it called, scene in the freezer where he takes on Gary Busey's team. That was so cool, man. Come on. I mean, there's that. There's this, what's it called? We first get a hint of the Predator. Remember when, what's it called? I think the character is Ramirez, if I'm not mistaken. The lady, she is confronted by the Predator, but the Predator, even though she has a gun, he does not kill her because she's pregnant. So you get you sort of first get sort of that a very, a taste of who the Yautja are. You have the finale, which was pretty decent. What's it called? What's his name? Danny Glover, what's it called? Cutting off the Predator's hand and calling it pussy face. And then the last fight on the Predator ship. And then the ending, man. The ending was so cool. Because there's what's it called? The Predator dead by Danny Glover's hand. And then out of nowhere, the lasers pop up. And what's it called? That whole sort of host of predators with the, not the Ancient, I think it's one of the, is it called the Ancient? I don't know, I'm forgetting. But that, guy comes out and, sort of, they don't, because he's, felled a predator, they respect him and he's given like that token with that sort of like, the, not the musket, but the, the gunpowder gun, the whatever they're called. I'm sorry, forgetting. But yeah, man, I mean, sort of, and that was a really, really good ending because again, it gave us further insight into the Predator culture. So again, I just don't understand why people give, this movie shit. I love it. So yeah, definitely number 3. Number 4 is going to be Predator Killer of Killers, which is the animated movie that Dan Trachtenberg wrote, directed, and we saw it earlier this year. In which we have an anthology of sorts in which there are 3 stories, again, taking from the model that he had done in what's it called? Predator in Prey, in which we see the Predator hunting throughout history, Viking, samurai in World War II. And I did my review on this, and sort of individually, I mean, out of all three, the samurai story was the best because, again, it's samurais versus predators. It doesn't get any better than that. But then he throws in that curveball where we see that, because the thing is that a lot of these movies, like I remember in one of the comic books, you had Dutch's brother, Dutch Schaefer, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character from the first movie. He's, there's his brother who's like a New York cop, who's apparently just as big and sort of intimidating. And sort of that it picks up from Dutch's story, but they still don't know what's happened to him. And the Predators descend on New York, and you have this guy knocking one out with a punch. So, we didn't know what happened to those characters after the fact. But what Killer of Killers was able to do is that it shows us that all of these champions, all of the victors in each of their sort of respective bouts with the Predators are then taken back to the home world to, for further sport. So that's adding another sort of whole dynamic to the Predator mythos. So yeah, totally sure, number 4. Now, number 5 is an interesting one because I don't really have one. I cannot add to a top 5 list any of the other Predator movies that have been released. I just can't. I can't put Badlands in there because if you saw my review, I was nonplussed. And the other ones, AVP Requiem, Predators, and then that one that Shane Black did. All of these aren't really worthy. I mean, maybe in a couple of years' time, because the thing is that regardless of my critique of the movie, Badlands has made a boatload of cash, and because of that, there's going to be a lot more movies. So it would be very premature for me to add any of those other shit ones to this top 5 list. So I think for a more definitive list, maybe we'll have to wait a couple of more years and see what else comes from Trachtenberg. But until then, at least, this is my top 4 Predator movies of all time.